When you're trying to buy a house with cash, your own cleared funds, as opposed to borrowed money on a mortgage, that should, in theory, give you an advantage in most cases. But so many cash buyers throw away that advantage by not being properly prepared when they make their offer and assuming that because they're a cash buyer, they're going to get taken seriously and be given an advantage. It's not the case. I'm Charlie Lamden. This is Moving Home with Charlie, and this is the video explaining to go with the page on my website, which is the suggested email template for making an offer if you are a cash buyer, meaning you don't need a mortgage. Now, so this is going to be probably slightly less entertaining than some of my other videos, but it is live, and so if you've got, I will only be taking questions that are related to cash buyers now. But if you've got live questions, by all means, pop them in the comments, and I will check them in a while when I finish my basic explainer. So, in the link in the description below, there is a link to a published page on my Moving Home with Charlie website, which inside that page has a link to the Google document where you can go and make a duplicate of that document so that you can then personalize it and edit it. And first and foremost, I want to say this. This template is it's what I would do if I was making an offer. It's not the only way of doing it, but there are lots of different ways of going about it. It's how I would go about it. Some people think it sounds a bit too formal and legal and threatening. It's not threatening at all. It's just making your position very, very clear. And for those first-time buyers who've used my other email template for first-time buyers with a mortgage, the feedback has been overwhelmingly positive that it's helped them get their offers accepted. Now, this is the goal of these templates. The goal of these templates is to help you maximize the chance of getting your offer accepted when you are either competing against other buyers, other cash buyers, other first-time buyers with a mortgage perhaps, or when you are the only offer on a property that you're trying to get a bargain on and you want to maximize your chance of the seller being so tempted to accept your offer that they just go, do you know what, to hell with it. It's less than I wanted, but we'll take it because this person's serious. In either of those scenarios, this works because whether you are a cash buyer or a first-time buyer, the purpose of this template is to make your offer very easy for the estate agent to recommend to the seller, right? That's what happens to offers. Offers are legally required to be put forward to sellers by estate agents, but when the agent does put the offer forward, if they're a good agent, they will accompany your offer with their own opinion on how highly they recommend your offer versus other people's offer, or how highly they recommend your offer as the only offer, even though it's a long way below asking price, because of how serious your offer is and how quickly you'll be able to proceed. Ultimately, private home sellers don't care whether a buyer is buying their home with their own money or with the bank's money. It makes no difference to the seller as long as they get the money. What does make a difference is the chances of this agreed sale. They accept your offer and then it falls through. And every estate agent is looking at every offer and analyzing the chances of that offer going through or not going through. And it costs you nothing to make sure that you've done everything possible to make your offer look like it couldn't have a higher chance of going through than that. Now, in this page, and this video is embedded within the page of the email offer template, you'll see a lot of rambling explaining the purpose of the page and how to use it and things you need to know about in advance. And then there's a link. The email copy is in the web page, so you can simply copy and paste it out of the web page into whatever document editing you are using, or you can open up in Google Docs. You don't need to request a permission to share the document from me because I'm not going to give it to you, because otherwise everyone would see your personalized version of my offer when they try to use it. All you have to do when you open the Google document, provided you've got your own Google account set up, is click File and Make a Copy. And it will open up a carbon copy of my Google document in your own account that you can then personalize and edit privately and use to then send to the agent. Now, this video is not about the in-depth strategies of offering, but I will just say this. Unless you want to get into negotiations, which I always recommend that you don't if you are buying a home to live in, because you will 99% of the time be out-negotiated. Unless you want to get into negotiations, and unless you want to risk losing the home you want to live in to someone else, always make your offer by email and always make it your first and final offer. Now, no matter how many times I say this, for some reason, the message doesn't get through most of the time. Your first and final offer is an offer above which you will not go, above which you will walk away if it's not accepted. It is intended to maximize your chances of you securing the home that you want, if it's a home you really, really want. And it's also intended to help you avoid negotiations. And when you are asked the question by an agent, why is this your offer amount? Whether it's on the, this is why you should not make the offer by phone, you should make it by email. Because I say, why? Why is it that much? The answer to that question is because that's the maximum amount I'm comfortable paying for this property in my or in our circumstances. That is the only answer you ever need to give to an agent. If you start explaining any other logic or rationale about your offer, you are opening the door for them to dismantle your objections or your explanation for your offer, which they are very, very good at. If you keep that door closed, you limit yourself and you protect yourself from being dragged into a negotiation where you will most likely be out-negotiated. And to all the agents watching this, I'm really sorry, guys. I'm sorry. I'm getting this ends up with more deals being done, so it does actually help you as well. But I know those of you who love out negotiating buyers aren't going to like this video. But it does result in more people making offers, so that's a good thing, I suppose. First and foremost, let's clarify what a cash buyer is. For the purposes of this email offer template, I am assuming that you have cleared funds in your bank account or in a quick access savings account or somewhere where the funds can be made available to your conveyancer, your legal representation, your solicitor who handles the transaction, because they will need the full amount of money to make the payment on the day. You've got access to those funds either immediately or within a very short space of time, like 7 days or something like that, right? If you are a cash buyer, but your cash is tied up in another property that you have to sell first, you are not yet a cash buyer. You're going to be a cash buyer, but you are not proceedable because your cash is tied up in another property, okay? By all means, tell the agent that once you've sold that property, you will then be a cash buyer once that property has completed that transaction. But do not, because it's so tiresome for agents. People go, yeah, we're cash buyers, don't need a mortgage, we're cash buyers. And you don't reveal the fact that actually you're not in a position to be a cash buyer today, right? So for the purposes of this video, for the purposes of this page and this email, it assumes you have the full amount of cleared funds available immediately or almost immediately. That's number one. Number two, it also assumes that these funds are from a legitimate and verifiable source. I'm laughing because the conveyancer sometimes gets some really, really funny, dodgy stories about where the money's come from. Which this is the important fact you need to know if you're a cash buyer, and if your funds are from your nefarious activities that in your mind might be perfectly legitimate, but in the eyes of the law, perhaps they're not. All conveyancers are legally obliged to report any funds they believe are from nefarious sources without telling you that they have done so. Okay? They have no choice about this, and if they don't do it and get caught out, they lose their license to practice. So it is an existential threat for a conveyancer who does not report obviously illegitimate funding sources. Okay, so you must be able to, and of course, these funds can come from a number of different places, and as often as not, they're coming from overseas one way or another. And unless you are, of course, a billionaire, in which case it's totally fine. It doesn't matter where the money's come from, because apparently normal rules don't apply. If you are an ordinary citizen, you will need to satisfy your conveyancer that the source of your funds is legitimate. We can have lots of fun with this, but this isn't the video for that. Okay, so we're assuming that the funds are available and ready. They are not tied up in an illiquid asset that you can't extract them from very quickly. Number two, they are from a legitimate source that you will be able to provide the paperwork for to verify to your conveyancer that they are a legitimate source. They will not just take your word for it. That's not good enough. You must provide documentary evidence to satisfy them that it's from a legitimate source. Number three, this email and this video assumes that you are accepting my advice and following my advice to already have a conveyancer appointed with whom you have passed your anti-money laundering checks and you've verified your ID. So they are actually instructed by you already in preparation for you having an offer accepted. Because this step, you can do it later, but it would change how you use my email template. This step is a major tick in the box for an agent who will then no longer be worried that your funds are from a dodgy source or are not yet released from whatever asset they were tied up in. Okay, so it's not just that it saves you time, it's that it massively improves the credibility of your offer. And when the agent recommends your offer to the seller of the property you want to buy, they will be able to say, this offer is fully legitimate, ready to go immediately, funds available, there's no question about it. We've seen the confirmation of this from their lawyers who they've already appointed. And if you haven't appointed a conveyancer, they will not be able to say any of those things, and they will have a silent assumption, potentially, that your funds may not be ready, and may not be, and even if they are ready and you show them a screenshot of your crypto account with billions in it, they may still not have cleared the legitimate funding source checks. And therefore, again, they may not recommend it to the seller, but they won't tell you that. That's the point. So that's why you are bonkers if you're a cash buyer offering on a home that you love and really want to secure, and you're going to have a conveyancer anyway. You are bonkers not to have your conveyancer lined up in advance, because that will massively improve the credibility of your offer, number one. And number two, it will also speed up the transaction so that you can say, I can complete very quickly, subject to survey and contract. Okay, do we have any questions on those points so far? Yes, so someone has pointed out the fact that cash offers get declined. I'm going to come on to that because that's a very valid point with dealing with certain agents. Yeah, some good questions here on this, which I will go through. Oh, cool. Some of you telling me that the offer's accepted on the back of my other template. That's cool. Now, okay, when you're offering on a property, there are two things that you have no control over, which could lead to your offer not being accepted. Number one, you have no control over the seller's situation or the seller's motivation and how serious they are or aren't about selling. That's why I would always, as a buyer, whether you're a cash buyer or first-time buyer with a mortgage, I would always ask the agent, is the seller contract ready? If not, why not? And how soon can they be? All right, because if there's any delay from the seller getting contract ready, that's a bit of a warning sign that they're going to waste your time, waste your money. Okay. That's number one thing you can't control. Number two thing you can't control is whether or not the agent selling the house is an honest or a dishonest agent. And towards the end of this video, I'm going to cover off the eventuality of what you need to do if you've made your cash offer, as recommended by me in this video and this email template, and you don't believe that the agent has actually put your offer forward, or you think that the agent has put the offer forward but has couched it in such a way as to put the seller off. Why would agents do that? I'll come on to that later. Okay, but for the purposes of this video up until the end, we're going to work on the assumption that you're dealing with a straightforward, honest agent whose priority is actually getting their client's house sold for the best price in the shortest time. There's some good questions here, but they're all going to come at the end of this video, okay? And Ahmed Matan, yes, there are negatives to be aware of when offering as a cash buyer in terms of having the offer accepted, which is what I was just referring to, and I'll come on to that towards the end. So let's just get the actual page up on screen here so you know what you're going to be looking at. One moment. There it is. Hang on a second. Let's do it that way around. So here's the page when you get this, what it'll look like. This is where my video will be in the middle of it. Introduction, explanation, are you a cash buyer? What to know before starting? What you will need, which is your proof of funds for your conveyancer, a conveyancing firm, have your property search pack ready to purchase. Come on to that in a moment. Make up your mind that you're happy to proceed with your offer if it's accepted. That might sound obvious, but it's not. And taking care to determine your maximum offer amount for the particular property. Right. Then the actual suggested emails template starts down here. And there is a link to the Google document actually at the top here. Where is it? Yeah. Google Doc version, you can edit yourself, click here, and there it is. That's where you get it. So you can just copy and paste it from the web page if you don't have a Google account. All right, so down here, there's the subject line, and then there's Dear Agent Name, and it goes on all the way down to where it says email ends. Or you can open up the Google account, and the Google Doc looks like this. And this is where you would come up here and go File, Make a Copy. Is that on screen? Let me just check. Yes. Right. Did you see that? File, Make a Copy. Right. You do not need to ask me for permission to share it, which is what's happening a lot on the other template. Okay. So property search packs, they cost between 300 and 400 quid, typically, sometimes a bit more, depending on how much your conveyancer wants to make as a markup. A property search pack, I've done a whole video on what they are. It is a set of searches and information about your property, some of which comes from the local authority. It's a local authority search. It talks about environmental risks, flood risks, and a whole bunch of other stuff. If you're using a mortgage to buy a property, the mortgage lender will require a property search pack to be purchased and be checked by the conveyancer. If you're a cash buyer, you don't have to. It's up to you, but you'd be bonkers not to do it. And so if you're going to do one, again, part of it is part of the offer, which it says in the email, is I will purchase my property search pack on the day the offer is accepted, if it is accepted. But you have the option to decide not to do that if you don't want to. All right. That is optional, but I honestly can't understand a situation where you wouldn't want to do that. I have dropped the link. The link, by the way, to this document is in the live chat at the very top. I'll just copy and paste it in there again for those of you who've arrived more recently. There it is, but it's also in the description below. And I'll make sure that I put it, if you're watching this on X, I'll make sure I put it in the underneath, and also on LinkedIn and everywhere else as well. But otherwise, go to my just Google Moving Home with Charlie or MHWC cash buyer offer email template, and you'll find it. You see, a cash buyer once sold is only attractive once you have sold, James. Yeah, so I'm just reading some of the comments here, and they are good comments and questions. Okay, a lot of people say, I get a lot of comments on an almost daily basis saying, oh, Charlie, God, it still offers over and there's still multiple bidders competing for properties. And that tends to be a lot of buyers' experience, even in a buyer's market, even in a bit of a downturn, because the really nice properties are rare. And when they come along, guess what happens? Everyone wants the nice properties, right? Everyone wants the nice properties. And that creates the impression that, oh my God, all the nice stuff, there's so many people. There are always buyers needing to move. Whatever the market conditions are, there are people who need homes, people needing to buy. And that's why, whether you're a cash buyer or not, you should, if it's a nice home that you know is going to be desirable, even in a downward market, you should be expecting competition. And that's why you should get all your ducks lined up in a row to offer. Now, I'm going to put a comment up on the screen here from someone called Mbaku the Maine Coon. My dad's £310,000 cash was declined. House is a 1970s townhouse with no garden and a service charge for £325,000, still unsold 3 months later. Okay, I don't know why that was turned down, but this is something that everyone needs to know about estate agents dealing with cash offers. There are some estate agents who make more money on the referral commission from selling mortgages and conveyancing and other stuff like that as well than they do from selling a home. And what that means is, if they sell a home to a cash buyer, the only income they will make is the commission on the sale from the seller. And at the moment, those fees are unsustainably low across the industry. And this is why you get agents being so ridiculously competitive with each other and dropping fees so low that they actually can't really provide a decent service or do the job properly at fees that low. And so a lot of these agents, every property they sell is an opportunity to sell a mortgage, at least one mortgage with it. And the commissions on the mortgages for these agents can be larger than the fee for selling the house. And so they do not want to sell that house to a cash buyer, because effectively what they'll be doing is selling that house at a loss. It's very difficult to spot these agents, but they do exist. And they tend to be, more often than not, they tend to be agents who have in-house mortgage brokers. I don't mean in-house brokers who are actually independent and not part of the company, but they're in-house and they're part of the same company. That's a conflict of interest, in my opinion. Okay. And I know of one case where not only did the agent fail to forward a cash offer of asking price on a £300,000 house, they sold that house for £285,000 to a buyer who got a mortgage through their in-house mortgage broker. So they defrauded the seller out of £15,000. It's incredibly important that you do not assume agents are going to do this, because it is absolutely wrong and unfair, and is going to damage your own prospects if you treat them as guilty when they're innocent of this, right? But there are telltale signs of this happening for cash buyers, which can be that you don't get. I mean, normally when an agent gets an offer by email, you'll get a phone call like that, knee-jerk, like lightning fast reaction, because agents love offers and they want to play offers against them. If you don't hear back when you've made a cash offer after a few days, that's the first red flag. Now, there might be an innocent explanation for it. Might just be crap at admin and it slipped through the net and they haven't bothered, whatever. But it's the first little red flag. And that's why in this email template, it asks the agent to confirm in writing that they have sent it to the seller. Okay. Because that will form evidence for you if you later discover that they didn't and that they lied about it. You will be able to take action against them, but only if you've got an email from them that you asked them to confirm that they had sent it on to the seller. If they send you an email confirming that your offer was forwarded on to the seller, and that turns out to be a lie later that you can prove, you will have them banged to rights. Okay. If you're getting dodgy, if they're dodging the question, if they're not really answering, they're being a bit vague about it, you should escalate your concern and you should say, I'm concerned that my offer is not being properly presented to the seller. I've asked several times, I'm not getting a satisfactory confirmation that my offer has been put forward to the seller properly. Unless you can provide me with hard proof that the seller has seen my offer, I'm going to take this up with the Property Ombudsman and National Trading Standards. Okay. Now, I think I've linked to those, but you'll find them, right? Just Google it. The Property Ombudsman, National Trading Standards for Estate Agency and Lettings. Okay. And do not hesitate to contact those guys if you complain to the agent and the agent doesn't satisfy you. Because not only are you being cheated out of a home that you should be buying if you're offering, say, asking price and your offer's not being put forward, but the seller is likely being cheated out of a sale as well. And this is a piece of practice that needs to be stamped out hard. And all good agents will support me in wanting this practice to be stamped out. Okay. Now, what the really clever agents will do is that they will put your cash offer forward, but they will say, yeah, we've had a cash offer. We're not sure how legitimate it is. We're not sure about the source of their funds, because if you haven't verified the source of your funds and that they are verified by a conveyancer, you're leaving it open for the agent to say to the seller, we haven't yet verified the source of their funds. And in this instance, this can often be the case that actually the funds aren't actually ready. And so in other words, they can make it sound to the seller like you don't have legitimate ready funds to proceed. If the seller sees your email, which is what you should ask for to happen, you should ask for the agent to forward your email to the seller, then the seller can make up their own mind about how legitimate your offer is or not. Now, if you are particularly worried that the seller has not received your offer, you are absolutely within your rights to put it in an envelope and put it to the letterbox of the property concerned. The sellers may live there, in which case they'll see it straight away. And all you need to say is, I just wanted to be doubly sure that the agent has forwarded my offer to you. Hope you don't mind. We love your home. Here's the offer. Okay. So you're not necessarily accusing the agent at that point, because maybe the agent has put the offer forward. You don't know. And if the property is empty and belongs to a landlord, there are ways of finding out that landlord's address so you can send it to them directly. Or if you put the post through the letterbox to the owner of the property as well, there's a good chance that they're going to receive it at some point. Okay. But there are ways of finding out who the owner is and communicating to them your offer if you're that determined to do it. Do we have any more comments on this particular question and point? SFM says, surely agents with in-house mortgage brokers must be a conflict of interest. It absolutely is a conflict of interest, because that mortgage broker, during the legitimate course of the task they have of verifying your finances, will get access to information about you and your finances that may be more than you want the agent to know. For example, you only want to pay $250. The mortgage broker knows that they could get your mortgage for $275 and tells the agent that, right? That is a conflict of interest, because the agent acts for the seller, the mortgage broker acts for the buyer, And if they are cross-sharing information, that is, first of all, illegal, and secondly, definitely a conflict of interest. And it happens, right? It really does happen. So that's one of the reasons why you should, in my opinion, always have a mortgage broker selected, one that you trust and like, with a decision in principle before you start viewing properties, so that when you do get, if you're a buyer that needs a mortgage, sorry, this is not really for this video, but that you can say, here's my decision in principle, here's my broker, sorry, there's all the proof of fund that you need, you only need to verify my ID. Anyway, let's come back to it. So yes, there is, and it is precisely because of this conflict of interest with in-house mortgage brokers that they will only try to sell, a bit like car dealers would rather sell a car with finance than without, because they make a lot more money on it. All right. You'd think, wouldn't you, that car dealers might sell a car for a slight discount if it's cash. No. They're losing money compared to if they sell it to you on finance. Just looking at some of the other comments here. So here we've got so David McKenzie says, what if your funds are invested with, say, a 90-day notice period? Surely that would make them available for any possible exchange date. You've got to remember that if you're a cash buyer and if the seller is contract ready, in theory, you can exchange within 48 hours, 7 days. If you don't want a survey, for example, you got cash, and if the seller is contract ready, and serious sellers should be and could be, then 90 days would cause a real delay. But if 90 days works for you and works for the seller, then yeah. If your funds are invested with 90-day notice period, yeah, sure. But I mean, what are you going to lose if you take them out? The penalty of early withdrawal is probably small in comparison to the risk of losing the property. And remember that the whole point of being a cash buyer is that you can offer a faster completion than a first-time buyer, right? Because the first-time buyer's got a lot more hoops to jump through and a lot more chance of a lender giving a down valuation, all that kind of stuff. So don't squander your advantages as a cash buyer by not following the suggestions in this email. David also asks, what's the average additional discount to asking price that could reasonably be achieved? First of all, there's no such thing as an average discount in asking price, because asking prices fluctuate wildly. If that's the true value of a property, asking prices can be way up here and they can be down there, depending on the asking price strategy the agent has adopted. So there is no average discount. Secondly, every single property is unique. The seller situation is unique, and all of these things will affect it. So you won't always get a discount as a cash buyer, right? If the seller is not in a hurry, then actually as a cash buyer, your advantage is limited. Because by the time the seller wants to move out, the first-time buyer will have been through the mortgage survey and everything else. And yes, there's a bigger chance of a fall through or the buyer pulling out if they're a first-time buyer with a mortgage. But the whole idea here is I'm a cash buyer, everything lined up, I can do a much faster sale. But remember this, also as a cash buyer, you are no less likely to change your mind. Cash buyers often change their minds. So make sure you really know that you want the property that you're offering on. So Ahmed Matan, yes, here's your question. The one negative to be aware of when offering as a cash buyer is that the selling agent is trying to sell mortgages. That's the one negative, all right? Okay, so Sir Fleshmorph, that's a great name, says, the problem with getting a conveyancer and funds approved is that really nice properties are so rare it may take ages to find one, and money constantly needs to be moved to get the best instant rates. So that's true, but you don't necessarily need to put the money in the conveyancer's account as long as you can show the conveyancer where the funds are and that they can confirm for you that they've seen the source of your funds and that you have sufficient funds and that they are available for the transaction. All right, guys, I reckon that's probably enough. Do we have any more? Okay, Ahmed Ali asks, any tips on how to choose a good conveyancer to verify funds for a cash buyer? This is something I've covered quite a lot of time in the past. There is no fail-safe formula for choosing your conveyancer. Generally speaking, cheap conveyancers are to be avoided. Go cheap when you're buying petrol, or when you're buying flights, or when you're buying toothpaste. Don't go cheap when you have to hire a professional for a one-off service. It is always a foolish false economy. So do not think all conveyancers are the same. Really crap conveyancers will lose you the deal just by being unresponsive and slow, and the seller will get fed up. So do not choose a cheap conveyancer ever, ever, ever if you really care about a deal going through properly, okay? Really good conveyancers will get a deal done where average conveyancers won't. Really good conveyancers will G up the other side's conveyancers in a professional way and help speed the process up. Really good conveyancers will find solutions to problems with title, other problems with ownership, or whatever it might be. Really good conveyancers will do that. But best of all, a good conveyancer will just get the deal done faster than other conveyancers. So generally speaking, you're looking for the quality of service. When you first ring them up, how would you rate out of 10 the way they answer the phone, how quickly you get put through to someone that can talk to you, how helpful and how positive they seem? Because don't confuse politeness with efficiency. Sometimes you get really one of my pet peeves is really, really friendly waiters that are just totally useless at their job, right? You're looking for efficiency. How quickly do they call you back? How intelligent were the questions that they asked? How keen did they seem to work for you? It's a difficult thing to get right, which is why I have a firm of conveyancers that if you can't find anyone that you that you are very, very confident in, I work with a company that I've been working with now for over a year. They won an award as the best conveyancer in the country during that year. They have been outstanding. Their average transaction time is a month faster than everyone else's, remembering that they are slowed down by conveyancers on the other side as well. And they are on this URL here, which I'm putting on the screen now, right? If you can't find your own, if the agent that you're buying from is an agent that you really, really trust, and they recommend a conveyancer because they are a local specialist they've worked with for a long time and they actually get deals done faster, and it feels like a real personal and professional recommendation, I would always go with that if you trust the agent. If the agent's just making an introduction and has a panel and a choice and everything else, and always say to them, what's the referral commission? And if they say, oh, if they squirm and look uncomfortable, they're not recommending the conveyancer because they're good. They're recommending because they get a commission out of it. It's not necessarily anything wrong with that if the commission is a reasonable amount. It's kind of that's how the world works. But some of them, the commissions are too big. So, for example, if the conveyancing quote is £800 and they say that their commission on that is £500, run a mile from the agent and the conveyancer if you can. But if they say the conveyancing quote is £1,000 and their commission is £100, that's entirely reasonable. 10 to 20% is typical and reasonable. Above 25%, 33%, absolute limit. Above 33%, no. You do not want more than a third of what you're paying for conveyancing to be kicking back to the agent so always ask. It's an awkward question, but always ask, because if they say, look, we don't get any commission from the solicitor, we use them because they get our deals done faster, that is a great recommendation. You want to use that conveyancer. But if you can't find one of those, my guys are absolutely fantastic. And pop your details in on that page, and they'll be in touch with you. They're efficient, they're friendly, they're professional, they are, and above all, they are consistently good. All right, so that's why I work with them. Toolski, yes, you've been asking for this. You're very welcome. Amir Sheikh says, I went on a viewing recently where the agent point blank told me that if there were competing offers, what would swing it is using their mortgage broker and conveyancer. That's illegal. And you got to try and catch them out, because that is not legal. If they're saying it would swing it, shouldn't be a deciding factor. Kat asks, a few agents have told us the property has an accepted offer. Can we still put in our offer? Not only can you still put in your offer, but the agent is still legally obliged by law to put your offer forward, even if they've already accepted another offer. That's called gazumping, if the seller accepts it, but I'm not saying this is a good thing or a bad thing, because there's gazumping and gazundering, but the facts are that the law requires the agent to put your offer forward, even if they've got an offer accepted. Okay, guys, do we have any questions about the page or about how to offer, or anything that I haven't answered from the point of view of a cash buyer? I'm just reading some of the comments and questions here. Oh, interesting question. Zuba Banglawala, forgive me if I've got that pronunciation wrong, says, is it acceptable as a buyer to offer a, quotes, modest fee to the agent for a successful completion? It's illegal for the agent to accept any money from the buyer when they legally act for the seller. That is an actual definite conflict of interest. The idea being to motivate given difficulty competing in the market. Listen, if you want to, after it's all said and done, if you think they did a good job, you want to give them a bottle of wine or a box of chocolates or whatever, that's absolutely fine. There's nothing wrong with that at all. But no, offering money in advance to an agent to get a deal over the line is not advisable and not legal for the agent to accept it, as far as I'm aware. So Fleshmorph makes the point, some agents, like Andrews, call you the day after the viewing. That should always happen. A good agent will always call you the day after a viewing to get your feedback and basically want your offer there, not by email. And this is exactly why I say always make your offer by email. When you get that phone call from the agent the next day and they say, so what's your offer? Are you going to offer? If you are intending to offer, say, we do like the property. We're considering an offer. We'll let you know by email. And if they ask you more questions at that point, oh, how much is it going to be? Say, we'll let you know by email. Do not get drawn. It can be difficult because these guys are very persuasive and very pushy, and they're trained to be like that. And that's why it's better to not take that phone call if you're planning to offer. If you're not planning to offer, and you then take the phone call from the agent, give them the feedback on property, why you don't like it, why you don't want to offer. That is a useful, helpful thing for them to do, and it'll help them to get the seller to drop the price. But if you are planning to offer, and you see them coming up on your phone and they're calling you, I recommend, if you're confident that you can stand your ground, take the phone call, say, yeah, we've been slept on it, we do like it, we're considering an offer, we'll let you know by email, and end the call there. If you're not confident enough that you can bat them off the phone, don't take the call, but text them or email them straight away and say, sorry I missed your call, just to let you know, we are considering an offer, we'll let you know later by email. Just avoid a face-to-face or telephone conversation, because they are very, 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 very good, some of them, at getting you to believe that you really have to offer a very high amount immediately if you want to secure the property. Do not get sucked into that. Do not get sucked into it. Sorry, I'm only taking questions on cash offers at the moment, okay? Sorry, guys, no other questions tonight. Okay, in the absence of any more questions on this, I've got one question here I do want to answer because it just boils my blood. Just Geo on YouTube says, hi, currently 7 weeks into a 16-week sole selling rights contract. So you are obviously a home seller. You must be new to my channel, otherwise you would never have agreed to a 16-week sole seller contract in the first place, I hope. I have asked to withdraw my property from the market completely as no longer want to sell, and they are not being helpful. So first of all, they have to take your property off the market. The contract that you signed does not oblige you to leave your property on the market with them if you don't want to. You can tell them to take it down. You can instruct them and do it by email and say, please accept this email as instruction that we no longer wish to have a property marketed by you. Take it down. Take it off. We want it off the internet, off your website, off the portals. Take it down. Now, what that doesn't do is it doesn't get you out of the contract that prevents you from going on with any other agent. Two things you can do. Just ask them and say, look, we're really unhappy with your service. Could you please release us from this contract? If the answer comes back and they say, no, sorry, it's policy. So listen, you are absolutely within your rights if you wanted to release me from this contract. And if you don't, I'm going to complain loudly on social media about how you've got me no viewings, no offers, no service, no phone calls, and you're trying to make me stay with you even though you clearly can't sell my home. I'm going to shout loud and proud on social media to all my friends locally if you do that. Most agents will give in at that point. They don't, because that will definitely damage their chances of winning business locally, and they won't like that. And you're entitled to do that, by the way. You are 100% entitled, provided you don't lie, you are 100% entitled to put publicly and say, having a terrible experience with this agent, no viewings, no offers, they've stuck us into a contract, avoid, right? That will normally do it. Your third option is just to go with another agent anyway, and risk the fact that they might pursue you for a fee when you sell with another agent. But some of them will, some of them won't. CBR Low says, you have questions. What are they? It's now or never, CBR Low, because I don't have any other questions on being a cash buyer. So, do we have any last minute questions on being a cash buyer? Otherwise, ladies and gents, thank you very much for your time watching this. I hope it's helpful. Do give me feedback. Please let me know in the comments below if there are any unanswered questions that you have, and I will answer them. And so, okay, CBLO, sorry, that's not a question relevant to this. So I'm afraid I must have to leave that for another time. Oh, okay. Ahmed Matan has another question I missed, which is relevant. What's stopping a cash buyer showing proof of funds to secure an offer, but then ends up using a 60% loan to value mortgage? Is this legal, moral, or will it piss the agents off? There's nothing to stop you doing that, right? There's nothing to stop you doing that at all. Provided that the mortgage is approved. I mean, the seller might change their mind and go, hang on, you're moving the goalposts. The seller might think, the agent may well recommend the seller then changes to it, because that's it's not a good way to go into a deal. You want the deal, it's in everyone's interest in the deal to go through. So don't plan to lie about your situation. As long as you've got your mortgage decision in principle and you can show that you are ready to move, as with my other email template for first-time buyers, you have just as good a chance as a cash buyer, almost anyway, depending on the agent. All right. Thank you, guys. I really am going to stop now. Have a fantastic evening, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye.